Advance the colors. Please welcome Mark Smith.
Good afternoon. As you are able, please pray with me. Almighty God, author of our beginning and our completion, may we discover opportunities for gratitude throughout that entire range. And even as we ask your presence with us now, first we give thanks for the day and the life and the food that feeds it. But also for those who go down to the sea in great ships, for they witness your mighty power. And for those who answer their nation's call, for they selflessly serve. And for those who advocate and support them, for they entrust their best efforts to uphold and sustain their champions. And as always, hear our prayers for those who stand the watch around this globe. For your promises, for these gifts, we give you thanks and pray that all our efforts, whatever we call them, lead ultimately toward your peace, your righteousness, your love, your grace. And may our lives be an affirmation of those around us as we work together for those goals. We pray in your gracious name, our Creator, our Sustainer, our transcendent hope. Amen.
Please take your seats. At this time, we would like to thank Chaplain Mark Smith, the United States Marine Corps Band, and the United States Marine Corps Color Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, as you hear your service song played, would you please stand to show your support? At this time, we will have the Sea Service medley from the United States Marine Corps Band. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Marine Corps Band. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alan Kaplan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us at our Sea Services Luncheon. It is my pleasure to join you for the first keynote address of this exposition. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome our distinguished guests, including all our flag officers and general officers in attendance. I'd also like to thank our industry sponsors who made this luncheon possible. CACI, Janes by IHS Markit, and Fincantieri Marine Group. Before we hear from our keynote speaker, Admiral Bill Moran, it is my great honor to introduce our good friend, Dr. Jack London, Executive Chairman and Chairman of the Board of CACI. Dr. London will be presenting this year's Navy League, Nimitz, and Mickelson Awards. Dr. London has been a phenomenal friend and supporter of our Navy League and our mission. Under his leadership, CACI has grown into the global IT solutions and services provider it is today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to welcome our good friend, Dr. Jack London, to the podium.
Thank you, Alan, and good afternoon and welcome, everyone. I'd like to add a special welcome to our Vice Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Bill Moran. It's an honor and pleasure to be here today, and I want to thank Alan Kaplan for asking me to chair the selection committees for the Nimitz and Michelson's Awards. I'd like to recognize also and thank my selection committee members, Captain Carl Hasslinger, Captain Walt Sapinski, and Rear Admiral Frank Thorpe. From the outstanding submissions, we selected those recipients who best represented the awards criteria and the Navy League's values. Let's begin with the Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz Award. First presented in 1981, it honors a leader of industry who has major contributions to our nation's maritime strength and/or enhanced our national security, and who best exemplifies the leadership and statesmanship and dedication to our country exhibited by Admiral Nimitz. This award is a great honor because of Admiral Nimitz's remarkable career and legacy. Most notably, on September 2nd, 1945, Admiral Nimitz signed the peace treaty for the United States when Japan formally surrendered on board the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. After the war, he served as Chief of Naval Operations from 1945 to 1947. This year we have two winners. We'll begin with the first recipient of the Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz Award, Miss Leanne Garrett, if you would, please. Here she comes. Congratulations, there's your award. I think we're going to do some photos. We got to go over here.
All right.
Alan, get over here. We'll orchestrate our way through this, won't we? Cardi, congratulations. Alan. The voice of God is supposed to be coming. You have the voiceover?
There should be a voiceover. Give me 1 second.
No, not yet. There's the recital of your...
The Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz Award honors a leader of industry who has made a major contribution to our nation's maritime strength and enhanced our national security, and who best exemplifies the leadership, statesmanship, and dedication to our country that was exhibited by the award's namesake, Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz. The Navy League of the United States is honored to present the Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz Award for exceptional leadership to Leanne G. Garrett.
Our second recipient of the Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz Award is Mr. Matthew Mulheron. If you would, please. Hardy, congratulations. Beautiful.
The Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz Award honors a leader of industry who has made a major contribution to our nation's maritime strength and enhanced our national security, and who best exemplifies the leadership, statesmanship, and dedication to our country that was exhibited by the award's namesake, Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz. The Navy League of the United States is honored to present the Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz Award for exceptional leadership to Matthew J. Moran.
Well, congratulations to Leanne and Matthew. Now let's move on to the Albert A. Michelson Award. Albert Michelson graduated from the United States Naval Academy in 1873. Now that may seem like a long time ago, but he was ahead of his time, winning the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1907 for his remarkable work in calculating the speed of light. Presented since 1990, the Michelson Award is given to a civilian scientist, technical innovator, or technical organization for a scientific or technical achievement that results in a significant step forward for industry or for our nation. Achievements can be of a single contributor, a long-term scientific development. This year's award winner of the Albert A. Michelson Award is the California State University Maritime Academy's Golden Bear facility. Accepting is the president of the California State University Maritime Academy, Rear Admiral Thomas Cropper. If you would, please.
The Albert A. Michelson Award honors a civilian scientist, technical innovator, or technical organization for scientific or technical achievement that results in a significant improvement in the strength of our maritime forces or to the enhancement of our industrial technology base that was exhibited by the award's namesake, Albert A. Michelson. The Navy League of the United States is honored to present the Albert A. Michelson Award for exceptional leadership to Cal Maritime Golden Bear Facility.
Thanks to all our recipients for their contributions to our community and to the Naval and Maritime Services. Truly an honor. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Please welcome back to the stage Mr. Alan Kaplan.
Thank you, Dr. London, for that great presentation, and congratulations to the highly esteemed winners of the Nimitz and Mickelson Awards. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, Admiral Bill Moran, Vice Chief of Naval Operations. A native of New York, Admiral Moran graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1981 and received his master's degree from the National War College in 2006. As a flag officer, Admiral Moran served as a commander of the Patrol and Reconnaissance Group, and he was the Director of Air Warfare on the staff of the Chief of Naval Operations. Most recently, he served as the 57th Chief of Naval Personnel before assuming his duties as the Navy's Vice Chief of Naval Operations in May 2016. I'm sure his insights today will prove to be invaluable. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Admiral Moran.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. Wow, this is quite an intimidating audience. It reminds me of Forrestal lectures at the Naval Academy. Any Naval Academy grads in here, you're all asleep in the back right now, hiding in the corners, pretending you're actually studying. Well, it's Alan, thanks for the very kind introduction and the invitation to be here to speak on behalf of our CNO, John Richardson, and our Secretary, Richard Spencer. I really appreciate this opportunity for a lot of different reasons. I'll try to get into it here in a minute. But I think all of us truly look forward to this event every single year because it is truly one of the best opportunities we have to get together as a naval team, in Sea Service team in so many different ways. I really want to give a shout out to our international partners who are here in droves this year. 39 some delegations, the largest ever by an order of magnitude. So how about a round of applause for our international partners here? I want to give a special shout out to my newest friend and partner as a number 2 guy in the services, Vice Admiral Tony Ratikin, who has just been sworn in as the newest 2nd Sea Lord in the United Kingdom's Navy. So, Tony, great to have you aboard. And I got to tell you, man, that is the coolest title. I want that title. And then I'm going to retire, because that is really good. So also allow me to offer my congratulations to the awardees today. This is about teamwork, and it's pretty clear from the citations of those awards that the 3 of you are truly team players in what we do for the United States Navy, so congratulations once again. Now, many of you know I'm not a big fan of big speeches, but I am really big on dialogue, so I'm going to try to keep this pretty short so that we can get into that dialogue. So, fair warned, please start thinking of questions because this is not going to last long. And I want you to make them hard, well, kind of. Get to some pretty tough questions because I think that's where we really learn from each other. And for this year, my remarks, if they are centered on any one thing, any one single thing, it is about partners. A term used very often, perhaps too often to the point where some of us forget what being a partner really means. And in fact, the power of partnering is critical to our core responsibility, which is the maritime defense of our nations around the globe. Let me start in 1902, back when Teddy Roosevelt pushed for the creation of this league. He probably predicted how often our country would be in need of a strong advocate for the maritime forces to protect America's interests around the globe, and that's held true for 116 consecutive years. But I doubt he would have predicted, or did predict, the extent to which desperation would spread during World War I, World War II, and at times during the Cold War. All critical times in our history that required U.S. maritime superiority on the high seas. And I think we all know that that maritime superiority is necessary today every bit as much as it has been in the past. Today, as you know, our forces are on station, on, under, and above every major waterway around the globe, where our incredible sailors are doing the nation's work that all of us would be mighty proud of, not only their effort, but their sacrifice. But new challenges are upon us that require timely and thoughtful changes in scale and lethality to the Navy that has served the nation so well for decades. And I'm convinced that what got us here won't get us there. In the near and midterm, we need to scale up and be more lethal at a much faster pace to match threats in all domains in this wildly unpredictable operating environment we find ourselves in. This is real, folks, and it will take every ounce of imagination and innovation that the collective we can muster in order to maintain our maritime superiority. With the reemergence of true existential threats to international order and the democratic way of life, along with our allies and partners, we face a new era of great power competition punctuated by authoritarian rule. And while we cannot discount Iran, North Korea, and violent extremist organizations, the Navy of the future will largely be driven by competition from Russia and China. Our immediate focus is how to strengthen all aspects of our American naval power. And by extension, the who, the what, and the when matter more than at any time in the past several decades. So let me share a few thoughts on these three things. First, the who. We all have a critical responsibility to attract and retain the very best talent we have, no matter what business we're in. Everyone here knows that first-rate technologies, along with dependable and predictable systems, play a big role in our ability to scale up and be lethal. Less obvious to some, however, is the fact that our first-rate technologies also keep talent working for our navies, and more importantly, ensures they are ready for any possible contingency. And it's not just about our sailors, but our civilians and our industry partners who all contribute uniquely to the Navy team. They all demand and deserve autonomy, mastery, and purpose in all that they do. That means giving them the time and the resources to train, learn their tradecraft, and operate independently on the high seas. It means developing learning systems, including low-cost, high-fidelity simulation, located near our duty stations all over the globe, that allow them to enhance their skills, develop good habits, and improve on their instincts. It means competitively paying them so that fair compensation is not on their list of concerns. And it means reducing unnecessary burdens and eliminating those 3,000-mile screwdrivers from back here in Washington, D.C. that we like to wield every now and then. So why is all this important? Because creating a workforce with autonomy, mastery, and purpose baked into our culture is the best way for the Navy team to scale up and be that lethal force we need it to be. And nothing is more powerful or more purposeful than serving your country in uniform. And then there's the what. This means appreciably growing the size of our fleet in numbers and capability. This we have already begun. The first steps on the journey to a fleet in the mid-300s or greater is to maintain, modernize, and grow the fleet we already have. That means continuing to put readiness dollars to good use, adding new systems that will take existing hulls and aircraft platforms and make them relevant for decades to come. Providing common configuration to simplify training and proficiency and allow for easier transition when replacement players are needed on the team when the fighting begins. And finally, building more platforms that are tried and tested while we develop new technology for the future. As we look to that future technology, those that deliver agile and innovative solutions, that deliver speed of orientation, decision, and action will be valued more than others. I think it's safe to say that the diffusion of technology, the ubiquity of ISR, the mass of data and information, and the pace, this rapid pace of change you've heard a lot about, accurately defines the competition that we are in. Harnessing things like predictive analytics, artificial intelligence, and then networking our warfighting capabilities in resilient and self-healing ways are essential to staying ahead of our competitors and reducing the casualties of war. We know how to fight. These technologies need to enhance how we fight smarter. To our industry partners in the audience, your role here is critical to ensuring we maintain our edge and stay ahead of our competitors. Every dollar has to count like it's our very last cent. And partnering is the best way to get this done. And finally, the when. To be frank, we cannot afford, nor do we have time, as a nation or a Navy, to play cat and mouse games with contracting, requirements, and risk. We all have to act with a sense of urgency to make sure the United States Navy and our partners and allies can win in the future. And we all know that there are fierce technological and geographical races occurring all around the globe. These times require urgent action, not the same fits and starts that many of us in this business have grown used to over our careers. Lately, I've seen progress along these lines, and it feels really good to have the entire Navy team, uniformed, civilian, and industry, working together to get after and solve those big problems. So we need to continue to partner as an appropriate reaction to these challenging times and commit ourselves to building a military, civilian, and contractor team that works together on shared goals. Look, most everyone in this hall has been part of a 242-year-old legacy of a very proud Navy. We dominated technology with industry in partnerships after World War II. We absolutely dominated that market. We dominated the maritime after the fall of the Berlin Wall 30 years ago. We dominated innovation throughout the 20th century, and we are still innovating today. But now is not the time to cede any of that space to authoritarian competitors. We have to be ready to win the peace again. Let me end with a famous quote by a former Assistant Secretary of the Navy, a guy named Teddy Roosevelt. It's worth repeating. A good Navy is not a provocation to war. It is the surest guarantee of peace. Surely, more than anything in the world, we, all of us, should be dedicated to making sure that the guarantee is in place for us, for our children, and our grandchildren. If we can bring the who, the what, and the when together, we will be a strong Navy team, a bigger, more capable Navy, and a powerful Navy that can guarantee that peace. So with that, told you it was going to be short. Let's go to questions, comments. And I think there's folks walking around with microphones. So if you raise your hand like you, and I see a lot of microphones out there.
Good afternoon, Admiral. Yes, that's the voice of God coming out. Good afternoon, Admiral. My name is Everett Hayes. I'm from Suss Consulting. I was just recently cleaning out my office back home, and I came across my Cold War certificate. I'm sure many of us in the room have received one congratulating us on winning the Cold War. And when I looked at it, I kind of reflected on that and then thought about today's climate, where we are today, where the Russians were when we won. And I just wondered if you draw any parallels to what happened and how we won the Cold War to what's going on in our Navy, in our country, and if we're back in the Cold War again.
We are certainly back in a war of ideology, and that would be those that choose an authoritarian way and those who choose a democratic way. So from that very simple standpoint, I think we are back to what looks and feels like a Cold War, only this time we don't have one existential threat. We've got multiple. And I think that makes this a lot trickier, more challenging in many respects, and it forces us to prepare for lots of different types of warfare, lots of different contingencies, and frankly, arguably we are more complacent with where we are today, and that's a dangerous thing for all of us. I'll leave it there. Not to scare everybody. This is that really awkward moment where nobody wants to ask a question. I knew it was coming, Jack.
Jack, hold on, Jack. I'm coming. I'm coming.
Jack, there's a mic coming to you, right behind you.
I thought I could shout loud enough.
You got a big room here, Jack. I know you got a big voice.
Thank you. Thank you, Admiral, for your insightful comments. I agree with virtually everything you said.
Virtually?
Virtually.
So here it comes. Okay.
Completely. Better word, completely. Thank you. No, it's, I sense a very, a trend line problem in terms of the time that it's going to take to institute or implement some of these corrective, I use the word liberally, corrective measures that you've indicated here. Maybe you could share with us a little bit what you think might be where we are on the timeline and where we need to get and by what time, if you could give us some feel for your thinking in terms of correcting our situation.
Thanks, Dr. London. I think it's pretty obvious that last year, at the end of the year, we were given a significant amount of cash to poured into our readiness accounts. And I said at the beginning that we need a bigger, better Navy, by all accounts, to deal with all the operational requirements that are going on around the globe. And we have a pretty good-sized Navy, but a lot of that Navy's tied up. Maintenance periods have gone long. Parts are in short supply. Munitions, all of those things that don't actually allow you to take the full measure of the Navy you already have in terms of platforms and stuff and people. So that 17 added bonus certainly helped us pump some money into the readiness accounts, allowed us not to add more backlog into our ship maintenance accounts, started to address some aviation concerns we had. But then in 18, we programmed that and then some. We doubled down on the readiness accounts and then started to fill in the wholeness accounts. The wholeness is very, very similar to readiness, only it's like, think of it in terms of potholes instead of on a road that should be a lot smoother. So we've we programmed for that, but then of course we were in a CR for over half the year. We just recently got the checkbook with cash in it. So we're going through the process now of trying to execute that cash, fill in those holes, and continue to make the readiness accounts whole. 19 is our year for growth, even though in 18 we also added money into our platform accounts. 19 is a significant bump in those investments in both platforms, but modernization as well. I think everybody in here is pretty pleased with that add. But when you start looking beyond 19 and into 2021, there are a lot of dynamics that are in play that will govern how much those accounts look. Do they continue to look as healthy as they do today once we get through another election cycle and once we stare at sequestration again? So, you know, we're in a good place on that growth path. People ask all the time, what about that 355 number? When are you going to get there? Well, it's a combination of getting ready with the stuff we have. So we consider lots of different approaches to this to include service life extensions on some of our platforms. But you can't service life extend yourself to 355. You got to build new, and the good news is we are building new. And how fast you move up that scale is dependent on the amount of money we are blessed to get from Congress. In the meantime, we can't, the best way to get after naval power is to increase the amount of capability we're putting on our ships and our airplanes and another capability. We're spending a lot of time talking about networks and how they actually extend the reach and the capability of our strike groups today and the way we operate and fight in the future. We're spending quite a bit of money on R&D for new capabilities in our munitions stockpiles that extend the reach of what we have today. So all of those things are on a trajectory to get us in a pretty good place by the middle of the 2020s. That's where we want to be. We want to be in 2023, 24, not at the 355, because that's very obvious we'll not have enough money to get there that quick, nor the industrial base to support it. But we're on a good vector on our current profile. The 30-year shipbuilding plan was a very good document this year. A lot of time by Vice Admiral Bill Mers and his team, if he's here, of making it real to fully flesh out the challenges we're going to have to getting to that larger Navy. So, short answer to your question, Dr. London, is mid-20s. Yes, sir.
Sir, the subject is character and leadership. I read recently we're starting a new school in Newport, and I understand that's there, but aside from that school, if you could talk about that, where else or how else in the training pipeline for all Navy personnel are we going to address that subject of character and leadership? And as an aside, have we asked the opinion of the most expert person in the room on character yet, who you just talked to, Dr. London?
So, Dr. London, my apologies for not consulting with you before we rolled out that character and leadership thing. You're absolutely right. I have read Jack's book on that particular topic, and it is extremely insightful. I guess the good news is there's not a silver bullet when it comes to leadership. We have to constantly remind ourselves and reflect on the things that, from a principled leader standpoint, are principles that you have to abide by. We sprint and drift when it comes to leadership, in my view, over time. And right now, we're back in a sprint to get after it, to learn, to teach people how to self-assess and assess each other's strength of character, their competence in the warfighting arena that they're in. And so the CNO's vision is that leadership development runs kind of two paths, one on competence and one on character, and we're actively working on that with more touch time for officers at Navy War College and in our community schoolhouses that as people progress through their careers, they often in naval aviation, every time you go back for a career milestone, you go back through the FRS. Inside that FRS, we talk about character, we talk about leadership, we talk about ethical behavior, those sorts of things. In the enlisted force, you're going to see here in the very near future, the Fleet Master Chiefs got together and designed and built a curriculum which has been many, many sailors out there have said, hey, what happened to Petty Officer Indoc? What happened to this kind of continuum of leadership development for our junior enlisted folks? And, you know, we drifted. And now we're sprinting back to get where we need to be. That's going to be a formalized program that I think once it hits the fleet, taught by chiefs, will be very impactful to the fleet to hit both the officer and enlisted side. And now we're turning our attention to our civilian workforce. You know, many of our civilians are former Navy, former service members, and they want to be taught more about leadership and character and ethics just as much as those wearing uniform. And that's been a hole, that's been a blind spot for us as an institution for a while. So we're now addressing that to complement the other two lines. Thanks for the question. Yes, sir.
Admiral Moran has time for one more question.
That's the voice of God. I'll stay as long as you're seated, so whatever you want to do. Let me go here and then I'll go there, okay? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. As platforms like the Triton and Fire Scout and Stingray start to come online, how do you foresee the career of aviators changing and those sorts of implications? Are we going to see all UAV aviators at some point, or is it going to be a more seamless integration?
Well, I would describe it more seamless than that. If you look at Triton, my community took that on and created career paths that branch in both ways and allow you to merge back. So it works really well for the P3 community because it can be a shore duty assignment. So a seashore rotation in that scheme allows you to do both. In other capabilities, Fire Scout, it is a sea duty component to a sea duty force. It's a little tougher to manage, so we've had to grow that force in order to deal with being able to operate that capability. I think the more we learn and the better we get at operating these systems, there'll certainly be a leadership component to it from an officer perspective. But I do think we're going to be leaning more on our enlisted workforce to help complement how we operate those systems in the future. Yes, sir. Thanks for your patience.
Vice Chief Jim Shannon, Class
Hey, Jim.
81,
How are you?
Been hearing Navy leaders lately use the term agile a lot lately, more than in the past. Can you expand on that, please?
Man, you didn't talk to me about this ahead of time. Yeah, no, a lot of the words in my remarks do sound a little bit like, you know, the words that end up originally having quite a bit of meaning or at least an understanding, and then we use them for everything, and they lose their meaning over time. But agility is a combination of being tough, being resilient, being able to maneuver quickly to a different solution set to different problems. So it's everything from electronic agility to the ability of your mind to be agile, to think critically. Another area, you know, going back to the leadership development aspects and the Center of Leadership Excellence and Ethics up at War College, is to get at teaching our young officers and mid-grade officers more how to think critically in an environment that's moving very, very quickly. So agile minds, agile systems, and agile ConOps, they all kind of go together. And at the center of it all are the people that are going to have to operate that. So we have to do this all together. And you know, it's really interesting that some of our folks that may not be on a path, the traditional path to a warfighting career, are incredibly effective at agile thinking and critical thinking that we need to take full advantage of and not have their careers end because they haven't moved all the way through a community. We can't discard talent like that. So we're trying to get after how to identify where that talent is, and then what do we do with it to bring it forward. There's a lot of great work going on in our N2, N6 resource sponsorship on going digital. So digital kind of forms the foundation for a lot of that agility in our systems. It certainly will allow it to go faster. AI doesn't work without data, good data. And what we are finding out, and Jan Tai is here somewhere, we are finding out we got a lot of bad data out there. We got reams of bad data out there. We've done pilot programs on F-18 radars. We've done pilot programs across the fleet and found out, you know, we could fill up the garage of servers with data and then turn it all on and expect it to work. And it doesn't, because it doesn't talk cleanly across. I think we're all experiencing that in our Navy. So getting after this digital piece will allow us to be more agile in the future on the technical side of things. And then, of course, on how we train our people to think more agilely. And then how do we war game it? And then how do we exercise to make sure that we're doing the reps and sets to teach it, ingrain it, so that it becomes habitual as opposed to something that's forced on our teams. So great question, Jim. I hope that answered what you were looking for. All right, I got time for one more if there's an interested party. If not, I'll let you. Are you the voice of God?
No.
Okay, no. All right, folks, thank you for having me here today, and have a great week here at Sea, Air, and Space.
Please welcome Jim Bruns.
Admiral, on behalf of the Naval League of the United States, I want to present you with this small sea bag as our thanks for a wonderful presentation. You did an outstanding job. We're so pleased to have you here. Your service is deeply appreciated by all of us in this room, I'm sure. A couple of housekeeping things before we depart. Please refer to the program that you have for all the special sessions that we have on the agenda. There's an array of them. We compiled those presentations in conjunction with all of our sea services to align with Compete, Learn, and Win. A couple of announcements. The leadership panel has been canceled, so if you wanted to attend that, please pick an alternative to attend. I also want to point out a couple of things to you. I want to ask a number of you, any of you, to visit the Cherry Blossom Room. That's a room where we normally would hold presentations. It's now full of exhibitors. Many of these are first-time exhibitors, so please take some time to visit the Cherry Blossom. I also want to point out that we have outside exhibits as well. Sometimes we forget that they're out there. We have some aircraft and some vessels outside, so in a warmer moment or with a coat on, please walk outside and take a look at what we have display-wise. Also, Huntington Ingalls has a presentation trailer out there. We want to thank all of our sponsors, particularly Huntington Ingalls and all those who sponsored this luncheon. And we want to thank you on behalf of the Navy League for attending Sea, Air, Space. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great day.